Prophecy, prophecy, prophecy. How do you know a prophet? When his words come to pass. God has been using our new generation prophet I.O. Samuel JP in the lives of individuals and nations across the continent and around the world through accurate prophecies, instant healings through the mantles of Shiloh Watt Chapel, direct one-on-one prophecies of accurate events around the world. As is written in the scriptures in the book of Deuteronomy 18 verses 21 and 22, Hosea chapter 12 verse 13, Amos chapter 3 verses 6 to 7, and Revelation 19:10. The Lord cannot do anything without showing his prophet.
Now I'm going to run the prophecies of the year so fast. Now I'm giving the first one. I see violence against the world leaders. A nation from Europe will clash with another nation. Blank name.
Prophetic Confirmation 2014.
To what America is officially calling a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russian troops spreading out throughout the strategic Crimean Peninsula. President Obama speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin, apparently pulling no punches, although it is unclear what the White House can really do about all of this. So let's go straight to ABC's Alex Marquardt, who's on the ground in Crimea. Alex, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. The pressure from Russia is growing. Large groups of pro-Russia troops surrounding Ukrainian bases, ordering their forces off of them so they can occupy them. The international warning to Russia to end its invasion is being ignored. This morning, more unidentified pro-Russia armed militias controlling the streets of Crimea's capital. These troops are standing guard just a few hundred feet away from a Ukrainian naval base. They have twice asked the base command to surrender. So far, they have refused. This is a Russian invasion, the U.S. says. It has no doubt these are Russian forces and has demanded their immediate withdrawal.
The Russian military must stand down. The aspirations of the Ukrainian people must be respected, and political dialogue must be allowed to continue.
Putin told Obama that Russia has the right to defend its interests and people in Ukraine. Russia! We've seen it for ourselves. This column of armored personnel carriers roaming the roads here in Ukraine's Crimea, where most people are Russian, while the shadowy pro-Russian forces here violently took over government facilities. It has fueled civilian unrest across eastern Ukraine. In one city, pro-Russia demonstrators rampaged through City Hall and brutally beat those who oppose them. There is a growing international chorus slamming Russia's actions. The British Prime Minister saying there is no excuse. Canada withdrawing its ambassador from Moscow. But many here are hoping Russia will go further. You want the Russian army to come here?
It's our family. It's not Russian army. It's our family. They protect us.
The Ukrainian military is now at its highest alert level. Just a short while ago, they announced that they are pulling up reservists. The United States, as we speak, taking part in an emergency NATO meeting to decide how to respond. Dan, Diana?
It's really unclear what the Ukrainian government can do or what the U.S. government can do. So let's talk about all of this with ABC's George Stephanopoulos, who will be hosting This Week later this morning. George, good morning.
Good morning.
The president has said publicly that there will be costs if the Russians invade. Now they have. What kind of costs can we impose on them?
Hard to figure out exactly what those would be. What the president has said already is the United States will stop planning for this G8 summit, which is supposed to be in Sochi, where the Olympics were just a few weeks ago. That's supposed to come up in June. So the United States could refuse to participate in that. They could also move beyond that, pull our ambassador or more of our delegation out. We don't have a full-time ambassador there right now. And then the big question is, are we willing to go farther, try to impose financial sanctions on Russia? One thing that seems pretty clear right now, no military action on the table at all. Back in when Vladimir Putin went into Georgia several years ago, President Bush did move warships into the region, did send humanitarian aid by military transport. That's about the most the United States could expect to do.
In the meantime, Putin just spent $50 billion trying to paint a new image for Russia. Does this just throw that out the door? And does he even care?
Well, I think that's the big question. Does he care right now? He sees Crimea as an important part, perhaps of the Russian Empire. It was part of Russia until 1954. He doesn't seem moved to stand down right now. I think the big question is he going to expand more broadly into the rest of Ukraine? That is a real red line that could provoke a more serious reaction from the West.
So many questions. I want to switch gears to a decidedly lighter note. Pull back the curtain on the multi-layered, many-splendored life of George
Jack of all trades.
After talking geopolitics on This Week, you're actually going to head out to L.A. to the Oscars.
Going to the Oscars. Looking forward to it. It's always such a great night. Looking forward to being out there with Robin and Larry.
Now I'm going to run the prophecies of the year so fast. Now I'm giving the first one. I see violence against the world leaders. A nation from Europe will clash with another nation.
Face-off between two of the world's superpowers, Russia and the United States, in a chess game filled with tension tonight. The eyes of the world still right here. On the one side, Europe. On the other, Russia, driven by strongman Vladimir Putin. And in the middle, Ukraine, Crimea, and an international tug of war. ABC's Martha Raddatz is traveling with the Secretary of State, and she is standing by. And ABC's chief foreign correspondent, Terry Moran, is also on the story tonight, starting us off with the latest on that crisis in Ukraine.
At Belbek Air Base here this morning, Ukrainian troops, unarmed, marched toward the Russian guns. And as they marched, they sang their national anthem. Confronting the Russians who had seized control of their base, forward under the Ukrainian flag they came. The Russians yelled, then fired. Warning shots, but the first shots fired here, then negotiations, and the Ukrainians withdrew, heads held high. It was a day of high tension. Russia test launching an ICBM like this one, a scheduled launch, but still a statement.
Mr. Kerry, welcome to Ukraine. Nice to see you.
And in Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, 500 miles away, Secretary of State Kerry walked the streets where scores of Ukrainians died in protests last month, then praised their revolution.
What they stood for so bravely, I say with full conviction, will never be stolen by bullets or by invasions, and it's called freedom.
In Moscow, Vladimir Putin offered a different version, a different reality in an extraordinary appearance. The new Ukrainian government, illegitimate, he said. U.S. support for it was like running experiments on rats. And the U.S., he said, must stop encouraging what he called illegal change in the territory of the former Soviet Union. The Soviet Union shaped Putin, a loyal KGB officer for 15 years. And here is what his country looked like back then, a colossus. And this is how it shrunk when the Soviet Union collapsed, which Putin called the greatest catastrophe of the century. His worldview shaped by the loss of an empire.
He was born in a large Soviet space that encompassed a huge part of the Earth's landmass. They still called themselves Soviet, by which they mostly meant Russian.
President Obama said today that Putin, quote, isn't fooling anybody, but Putin is less interested in winning arguments than he is in shaping history. And with thousands of troops on the ground and in control here in Crimea now, he is doing just that. Diane?
Thank you, Terry. And as you said, Secretary of State John Kerry was on the ground in Ukraine today. And ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz is traveling with him and joining us right now. So, Martha, give it to us straight. Is the United States closer to conflict with Russia tonight or not?
Vladimir Putin, the bully Vladimir Putin, may already have gotten what he wants, Crimea. So it's very possible he won't push any further. This is the way that man negotiates. He is a bully. He is hammer-handed. This is how he operates.
But there are going to be meetings. They are negotiating?
There are negotiations going on. Tomorrow, Secretary Kerry will be meeting with the Russian foreign minister here in Paris. Secretary Kerry really wants to get this settled as soon as possible.
So at the end of the day, can the United States let Russia keep Crimea this way?
You know, a simple answer to that is Europe going to go to war over Crimea? The United States certainly won't, so that may well happen.
All right, Martha Raddatz, as we said, traveling with the Secretary of State, and thank you so much for joining us right now.